I think we still have a lot of things to improve, and I don't think we can ossify and see Bitcoin as the final product. So we still need to improve on a lot of things. Plus, I think with the governments and everyone getting involved, we need to be a lot more cautious and work on security and privacy. My name is Floppy, and I've been involved in Bitcoin since 2015 in different things. And from last few years, I've been working on this project called Joinstr, which is a CoinJoin implementation. So mainly focused on Bitcoin privacy since last few years.
And what would you say has been your biggest contribution to Bitcoin development so far in your career?
I think this CoinJoin implementation is the biggest contribution, but I've even contributed to Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Knots. So even proud of that uh, thing. But I think the biggest contribution is the latest thing that I'm working on, John.
Can you give a little bit of a 101 explainer for perhaps like non-technical minded people like me of what the CoinJoin implementation that you're working on is?
So CoinJoin is basically multiple people join their UTXOs and get fresh UTXOs that cannot be linked to the previous coins to get some privacy. And earlier we had Samurai, Whirlpool, Wasabi, and Join Market, three CoinJoin implementations in the past. But I've been working on this Joinstr, which uses Nostr for the coordination. So you don't have a centralized coordinator, and anyone can create pools and uh, do coin join with other people, and all the communication happens using Nostr relays.
How did you get involved in the Joinstr project?
So Nostr was early, it had only a few apps and some people involved in it who were just experimenting with the different things in a Telegram chat. So I was one of those people who was curious about this project. So I just wanted to make something which uses Nostr, and I thought, why not create another CoinJoin implementation which can be decentralized? So I started working on this. I created a proof of concept in 2022, and then since then I've been just trying to create different clients and get other people involved in it to contribute and work.
Are you working on Joinstr full time?
Yes, you can call it full time because there's nothing else that I spend so much time on.
Have you gotten any other contributors or is it primarily just you?
So right now we have three contributors, including me. So there are two other people who are helping me.
How does your project get funding?
So we are mainly dependent on donations from the community, and we had even tried to apply for grants initially, but nothing worked out. So I think donations are okay for now.
Was this the first kind of like full-time project that you started working on in Bitcoin development, or were you already involved in Bitcoin development prior to 2022?
I was involved in Bitcoin development in different projects, but nothing was full time. I was working on different things part time. Um, but yes, this is the first thing which is full time, and I'm completely focused on trying to get this working on mainnet.
Okay. Do you have any like particular development milestones you're looking forward to in 2026 for the project?
I think the biggest milestone would be to get some volume on mainnet because we still don't have users who, I mean, some people have tried it on testnet and signet, but nobody has used it on mainnet.
Is it already launched on mainnet?
It can be used on mainnet, but I think it's still not as production ready as compared to other CoinJoin implementations. So we still need to improve a few things. And then I think it's just the marketing and getting some users to and get involved in it.
What is kind of your Bitcoin origin story, Floppy? How did you first get interested in Bitcoin development?
It was, I think, 2014 or 2015. I had I was on some forums where people discussed about Bitcoin and using it for different payments. So that was the first thing. I wasn't aware of the price and the all the number go up thing, but I came to know about uh, the payments and how it can be used even without the government sign. What exactly is Bitcoin mining and how things work. So initially, I saw other people talking about it on different forums. That was the first thing.
Like Bitcoin talk forums, or like what kind of forums are we talking about?
No, these forums were mainly on darknet.
You found out about Bitcoin through Darknet?
Yes,
Okay. I haven't met many people that have found out about that must have been really early. Like what year was it?
it was in 2015 when Bitcoin was even used mostly on darknet. Uh, I think other coins were not as famous as Bitcoin at that point, and people were not aware of uh, the anonymity or the privacy you get with Bitcoin. So it was used for a lot of transactions at that time.
Do you think that the privacy for Bitcoin transactions and Bitcoin's use in Darknet has significantly kind of like decreased and changed over the years since you first found out about it?
Yes, it has surely decreased a lot since 2015 in the last 10 years. And a lot has to do with the privacy and all the people who were arrested in different incidents.
What still kind of like interests you about Bitcoin? What's kind of your uh, motivation for uh, remaining in the development scene?
I think we still have a lot of things to improve, and I I don't think uh, we can ossify and see Bitcoin as the final product. Uh, so we still need to improve on a lot of things. Plus, I think with the governments and everyone getting involved, we need to be a lot more cautious and work on security and privacy.
A lot has changed. Bitcoin adoption has really taken off over the last like several years. And you're working on, like you said, Joinstr full time, which is very like privacy related. But the way that I found out about you and the way that I reached out to you was actually because you started the Opsiv TV workshop series.
Yes, so I've been working on these workshops for a reason, and I think CTV would even help CoinJoin if it is activated. So that was the main motivation to get involved initially. And then this has been going on since 2019 or 2020. And the last serious activation attempt was in 2022 when people rejected the proposal, and since then, a lot of other proposals have been written to do the exact same thing with different approach, different opcodes. So, but CTV still remains a simpler approach to get the basic governance on Bitcoin.
Can you talk about why it was rejected in 2022?
I think it wasn't really about the code or the technical part, but basically the politics and drama you see with every soft fork in Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. But before we do, for our listeners, can you give kind of the 101 on OpCTV as a proposal, what it does, and how it relates to privacy, like your Joinstr protocol?
So opctv is basically an opcode which can be used to restrict a UTXO so that you can only spend it if it matches a template. And the template is uh, a number of transaction fields that you commit. In short, there are certain certain things you commit while creating the UTXO, and while you're trying to spend the UTXO, those things need to match. Those values need to match. For example, the lock time, the number of outputs, number of inputs, uh, the exact outputs and their values, amounts. Everything needs to match, else you won't be able to spend that UTXO. So this opens up the world for a number of use cases, and the way it could improve privacy is by creating payment pools, which is another term for shared UTXO. So multiple people can share a UTXO for a temporary time period, and then they can exit the UTXO. So in Ethereum, you had this smart contract, Tornado Cash. It was nothing but a pool of people who are entering with their funds and then leaving with different amounts. But you get a different privacy, and you have zero knowledge proofs and everything involved in that. Uh, the payment pools that you can create with CTV would be a simpler version of it, which is already possible using pre-signed transactions, but you can get a better version of it with less interactions and uh, yes, less interactions basically.
And when you say less interactions, what do you mean by that?
So when you do any coin join or maybe pay join, there are multiple projects in Bitcoin that involve uh, multiple users who try to coordinate with each other to get some privacy. Even in pay join, the sender and the recipient needs to share their inputs and outputs with each other. I mean, it happens, everything happens in the background. That's the job of the wallet, but you have some all the mul multi-party protocols have some coordination involved. So the goal of any developer has to be to reduce the time of coordination and the steps involved in that coordination. You can even take the example of the lock time that you already have in Bitcoin. So you can actually restrict a UTXO that cannot be spent before a date. So we can restrict the UTXOs with time right now. After CTV, it's not just the time, you can have other parameters like inputs, outputs, and other things.
Yes. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, more flexibility, programmability in terms of the parameters that you can set for spending conditions on Bitcoins.
Yes.
Okay. And as you had mentioned, OPC-TV has been a proposal discussed in the Bitcoin community for several years now, since as early as you had mentioned 2019. Is that correct?
I mean, the website for CTV, utxos.org, was created in 2019, and uh, everything started after that. The the last attempt was in 2022 after Taproot activation. I don't think Jeremy, the main author of CTV, is anymore involved in the the politics or the drama or everything that you see around. But other people have jumped in and they have proposed other opcodes like this recently, a variation of check template verify, which is called template hash. So that is another proposal which has different properties and different authors. I can explain the difference between the two if you want.
Well, about op template hash, my impression was that it's proposed by some prominent Bitcoin Core developers, and and I was under the impression that since it might have, since it's authored by these core developers, it might have more likelihood of getting activated, or at least more like potential than opc tv that was rejected and already, like you had mentioned, Jeremy Rubin had already, the author of it, had already kind of gave up on it, hasn't been pushing it forward. um is that also your impression or not?
Y- Yes, I think that's one of the ways to look at it. The Bitcoin Core contributors involved in template hash are uh, involved in Bitcoin Core since a long time, and they have some reputation. But that's true for Jeremy Rubin as well. He was also a Bitcoin Core contributor, and I think if we have to look at the technical part of both the proposals. I don't think the people really matter in the end. I think once you look at the code and you have to review what exactly it's trying to change in Bitcoin. So, if you compare two things, the first major difference is that template hash is a taproot only proposal, so it won't work for legacy scripts or set with V0. That's the part which I dislike, and one of the major reasons I'm pushing for CTV and not for template hash. CTV doesn't need any changes at this point, and it has gone through a lot of review and testing. People have even used it for different proof of concepts. People and some people are still working on it. I think recently one or two people were even funded by Spiral and other organizations to work on proof of concepts that use CTV. So it has a great chance to get activated if people can get together and agree on this basic thing, which can be improved later or to have better governance in future. But this is the basic thing which is used in a different proposals like and people want more than CTV. I think they even want CHEDSIC from Stack, which is CSFS in short. So I don't have any problem with CHEDSIC from Stack. The reason I didn't uh, include it in the meetings in the recent activation meeting is that Firstly, I wanted people to agree on some timeline. Uh, so activation has different parameters, which become a part of a lot of politics and drama. So I wanted to have some clarity on those parameters, like what should be the signaling period and when should the signaling start. And once we have some consensus on these things, we can even include, we can use the same for other opcodes like check from stack, or we can even use a parallel activation with different bits. So I'm not opposed to check from stack, but I just wanted to focus on bit 119, which is CTV.
I'll definitely link in the show notes of the episode for any listeners that want to dig a little bit deeper into the check sig from stack opcode, as well as, of course, BIP119, CTV, and op template hash. Just because I know that there's like kind of technical, um, there's differences between the two and also other unlocks that can happen with check sig from stack. Um, I mean, when you were talking about activation methods, good news is there was consensus, right? I noticed that from the discussion logs, there was consensus about the activation method and being as conservative as possible. Um, are you, what's kind of your plan in terms of next steps?
So the next step is to build the activation client, which will have the source code and the binaries so that people can start running. And the signaling starts from 30th of March, which you can consider April. So I think we still have time. I'll post about the activation client and share the links on mailing list. And I think uh, that will be by the end of this month.
This is an alternative activation client. I had thought that I thought I had thought that the plan was potentially to still try and get a core kind of client um, that activates the activation method for BIP119.
So core can always use the uh, same code or same activation client to merge the CTV implementation and core repository. The reason people prefer to fork the recent version of core and try to build the activation client using it is to avoid all the uh, nonsense that happens in the core repository if you open a soft fork related pull request. So James O'Brien already has a pull request which is open in Bitcoin core repository for the CTV implementation, but it doesn't have the mainnet activation parameters. The main thing you need for activation is the people uh, running the code which can be used to activate it. So if we really have some big exchanges, users, businesses will be running this client, then Bitcoin Core will automatically merge that pull request and there'll be less drama, less politics involved. But if I try to open a pull request with the mainnet client, mainnet parameters right now, that won't make any huge difference.
There's just such a low likelihood. It seems like almost impossible that, you know, the Bitcoin node operators would actually adopt such a software. So I guess I asked because it also seems kind of unlikely that there would be a wide adoption for an alternative, again, client implementation that activates like BIP119 when there doesn't seem to yet be like consensus for it.
I think it will have less people running it, obviously, but we don't need everyone to be able to get some support or the activation. If, for example, if at least three exchanges and 50% miners start running that would be enough to start the conversation. And at that moment, I think it would make sense to open a pull request in Bitcoin Core repository, and that there'll be another level of discussion at that point. But if I open a pull request right now, that won't make any difference. Nobody would even bother to review it.
Yeah, that's like one way to just continue to keep the conversation going on OPSI TV, and do another kind of like temperature check of who is in support um, of this proposal. Do you know if any prior like Bitcoin soft forks, be it with Taproot or SegWit, um, if those were preempted by alternative client implementations? I was kind of under the impression that all prior Bitcoin soft forks had kind of were kind of like discussed, and like achieved rough consensus in the community before the activation process was really talked about or um, implemented.
So for Taproot, it was simple, and almost everyone agreed to have it activated. There wasn't a lot of conflict. The only thing which had some people disagree on was the type of activation, the activation method which was used for Taproot. And for SegWit, it was completely different, and there was a lot of politics and drama. And we even had alternative clients which were called UASF clients. And so, but eventually, Bitcoin Core did uh, merge everything in their repository, and they had their own clients. So I think it all begins with the alternative clients, and I don't think Bitcoin Core contributors in 2026 are going to support any soft fork which proposes some new features in Bitcoin. They want to stay out of the conflicts and all the controversies. So somebody has to start the conversation with a client and see how it goes.
Maybe that is the new kind of like activation method or path for changing the Bitcoin protocol, adding new features to it. I just haven't seen it happen yet and succeed, but it will be interesting to see. Yeah, I guess OPSI TV and its pickup as an alternative client. A few more final questions around this because I think it's quite interesting the way that rough consensus is kind of measured and created in the Bitcoin developer community. What would you say are kind of the persisting main disagreements and main like reasons for why OPSI TV is not something that Bitcoin developers support?
I think the main disagreement is that some people want powerful covenants that can do more than CTV, because CTV is pretty simple. It commits to a lot of things, and it does improve Bitcoin, but some people think uh, covenants should not be as simple as CTV. And for example, there was a proposal called TX hash. So that was basically a generalized version of CTV, which could be used for multiple use cases, and you can build a lot of powerful things on Bitcoin using that. So that's the only disagreement that some people have, that CTV doesn't do much. And there's also one side in Bitcoin which thinks there shouldn't be any soft fork which adds any features. They believe in ossification or just doing the soft forks which fix the bugs. So these are the only things which are against CTV in the community. Nothing else.
And also that some proponents, like for the op template hash that you mentioned, some proponents that think maybe opctv should be restricted more to taproot transactions and outputs rather than all types of transactions too, right? I mean, that's also a kind of a
Yes,
argument against CTV.
that's one more thing which I missed. So, but I think if you look at the number of transactions or the people who are using Bitcoin right now, most people do not use Taproot. So I think it will be unfair to the community if you restrict the next software which brings governance to Bitcoin and restrict it to Taproot only. And I don't see any reason to do that.
Okay, but knowing these oppositions and knowing that the politics and the drama back in 2022 resulted in a rejection, I mean, do you think that there's going to be any different of an outcome this year, like later in March, April, when the alternative client goes live?
I think CTV combined with Check Sig from Stack could get some support in the community, and I'm hopeful at least some users would start using that client for activation. And if that happens, there could be a much better discussion between other Bitcoin core developers who are uh, mostly involved in the protocol development. And I cannot predict the future, but I think CTV combined with CSFS has a good chance of activation. Even I want it as a combination, but I'm not working on an activation client which will have both CTV and CSFS. Somebody can build on the code that I write and combine it with CSFS, so I won't mind that. Plus, CSFS is something which would allow improvements even in the Lightning community. So the Lightning developers are also going to support it because of LN symmetry and several other use cases.
Okay. So it sounds to me as though maybe you're just getting certain work started, like getting the work started on a fork of the Bitcoin Core client that would have CTV. And the expectation is that, yeah, or most likely that people will, in the future, one day use that as kind of like a build on top of it, maybe add in another opcode or reference it maybe in other builds of the Bitcoin Core potentially down the road. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm
Okay.
trying to do.
Okay. Okay. And let's just say, once you do that and you kind of it's out of your hands, you've put it out there. Um, later this year, March, April, or you said next month actually, which is coming up soon. We're recording this mid-January, but you had mentioned February. Um, what are you going to focus on next? What's kind of some of the other projects that you want to tackle?
So I'll be mostly focused on Joinstr, but related to CTV, I think I'll be completing one of the proof of concepts, uh, which is a playground that developers can use to test different kinds of payment pools using CTV, so that everyone has a clear idea of what exactly are we going to achieve with these governance and how can it improve privacy. So, yes, that's it.
Okay, that makes sense. Working on the proof of concept next for using CTV to improve Bitcoin privacy via Joinstr. Is that right?
Yes, Joinstr uses predefined transactions, but if we have governance on Bitcoin in future, I plan to have the next version of Joinstr, which will be using governance. So it will be Joinstr version 2.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, cool. And Floppy, we talked about this a little bit before the recording, but had you seen the interview with Calvin, Kim for Ready for Merge?
Yes, I was seeing some of the videos you shared on Twitter yesterday. So yes, it was good.
Yeah. Well, then you should know that I did that kind of rapid fire question section with Calvin. Would you want to do that together?
Sure.
First rapid fire question. What do you like most about working on Bitcoin?
I liked that you have different opinions and uh, everyone is still trying to work on the same goal of trying to improve it.
And what do you dislike about working on Bitcoin?
I think sometimes those opinions, the different opinions become a lot of drama and people discuss useless things for months that make no sense. So that's something I dislike.
Third one, what's an area of Bitcoin development that you think is underserved, under what do you call it? Like not enough people are contributing to.
I think most people are not worried about the recent incidents that happened, like the Samurai founders are in jail, and the reason for it was they were working on a CoinJoin implementation, and it was self-custodial project. They did not have the custody of the funds for users, and they're still being held responsible for it, and they are in jail. So I think we need to take these things seriously and work on some privacy related improvements that cannot be stopped, and the developers cannot be blamed for such improvements. Plus, I think
Yeah.
a lot of developers and users have lost their way in Bitcoin and are kind of okay with custodial solutions like I don't want to mention any name, but there are a lot of custodial projects in Bitcoin right now. So yes,
Yeah, I mean, it's a good flag, especially as there's more institutional adoption of Bitcoin as an asset. How do you preserve um, individual use of Bitcoin for uses that are like for more on the individual freedom level? And yeah, some of those cases, criminal justice cases, are quite alarming. It reminds me of some of the I think there's even an ongoing case with the Tornado Cash developers as well. So yeah, no, those are all good points. What's something that you wish you had known about working on Bitcoin that you didn't know before you started working on it full time?
so before 2020, I was not involved in any Bitcoin development, and I wasn't aware of the politics and how things work in Bitcoin Core. So that was something I learned after trying to contribute, and I spent a couple of years reviewing some pull requests and trying to open pull requests. And yes, that's the only thing which I wish I would have known earlier.
Is there a piece of advice, a piece of advice that you would give to someone who wants to get into Bitcoin development? Perhaps even about navigating um, some of those complexities that that you didn't know beforehand, but now that you know, I mean, yeah, any words of advice for newcomers?
I think if you are getting involved in Bitcoin, the first thing is do not trust anyone, have your own opinions, and be confident about those. But at the same time, you have to respect other people who might know more than you at some points. So it's the same as any open source community, and there'll be times when you feel like you should just give up, and there'll be a point you would feel like exiting and rage quit. But understand that this happens in every open source community, and there's nothing special about Bitcoin. But there's more drama here because there's some money involved, and the only piece of advice is to never quit.
Speaking of open source projects, if you weren't working on Bitcoin, is there a different open source project you would want to work on?
I think there are multiple privacy related projects, and I'm passionate about working on privacy. So I might be working on one of those projects that improve privacy.
Any in particular that come to mind?
I could even start by contributing to Tor or I2P. Uh, I think I2P is very less hyped compared to Tor, but it is a decentralized version of Tor, and I2P would be one of the projects I would like to contribute.
That's cool. Any other like thoughts you wanted to share before we end off the interview, either regarding like your work with Opsy TV or just like privacy in general?
I think the last thoughts would be I just want to see something happening in 2026 because we have been waiting for covenants since 2020. So it has been a long time, and a lot of people have spent so much time discussing, contributing with their code or proof of concepts and everything. So it's time for Bitcoin community to take this seriously and think what all improvements can be achieved with this. And let's try to activate one of these proposals by 2027. I think some people in the community follow the influencers and the influential Bitcoin developers more than the actual proposal. So, I mean, it's a fact that most people do not understand the technical concepts involved in these proposals and they just follow the people who they trust. So think I don't think the consensus is lacking. It's just that we haven't seen some really convincing arguments or things said by people like Peter Willey, Craig Maxwell, and other influential developers. If they say something positive about CTB, I don't think most of the users would have any problem with it.
Yeah, it's some of those key stakeholders, those key developers uh, that still doesn't appear to be on board um, with the proposals. But as you mentioned, I mean, that's not the only way to go about progressing a proposal, a BIP. I appreciate the time, Floppy, and thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
And thank you to all of the listeners of the Ready for Merge podcast. I'm Christine D. Kim, the host of the host of Ready for Merge and the Meet the Devs miniseries. This was a Bitcoin developers edition of the show, and the interview that you have just heard was recorded on January 16th, 2026. You will be able to find more information about OPSI TV, links to Floppy's media profile, and other related information in the show notes of today's episode. So please do check that out if you want to learn more. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. I'll talk to everyone another time. Bye.